Earlier this week, I gave my thoughts on Microsoft's E3 press conference. But at the top of the video, I said, I don't have any context for this because I hadn't seen Nintendo Direct and I hadn't seen the Sony E3 press conference. But I did say that without seeing those two, it was a disaster. Needless to say, context doesn't help. My main concerns with Microsoft's E3 press conference were, they came right off the bat basically asking for Mulligan, saying we're going to focus on games this time. And they said it, and it's not me, they said it at the beginning of the press conference. And did they focus on games? Well, yeah, but they mentioned TV a couple times. They make it strobe. They mentioned TV a couple times. They mentioned Twitch and Spark and Smart Glass and video editing and some other stuff. So they didn't even stick to their own rules. On top of that, I didn't mention this last time, the Xbox One apparently red rings death because I couldn't play Battlefield 4. That took a while. But my biggest complaint was Killer Instinct. Not that they're redoing it, but how they're going about redoing it. And this is where context hurts them really bad. The PlayStation press conference ended with, the Apple style one more thing. They had one more game to show. And it was an original IP from Bungie and Activision. Now, if Sony wanted to be like Microsoft, this is what they would have done. They would have came out at the beginning, not at the end, and said, guys, we got no games, but we've got Bungie here. We're going to remake Halo. Please buy this new box so you can play Halo. And because that's essentially what Microsoft did. They came off very top of their presentation. They said the Xbox 360 is dead. It now plays Farmville, or free-to-pay social games. But we're remaking old Super Nintendo game, and that's the reason you need to spend $500 to buy our new box. So you compare and contrast there. New IP from Bungie or remake an old game. And then that's it. So you've got, as far as I'm concerned, Microsoft is done. They were making a multimedia box that also plays games, whereas Sony's making a gaming box that also does multimedia. So they're done. Like I said in my last video, you've got PlayStation, you've got Nintendo, and then you've got what I'm referring to now as the Xbox Saturn, right? It's done. It's going to last a couple of years, and then they're done. And maybe it'll rise like a phoenix from the ashes with the equivalent of a Dreamcast. But I think Microsoft is done. It's over. So I want to focus more on two companies that actually know what they're doing, which would be Nintendo and Sony. Now, pains me to say this, but well, the Nintendo Direct was good. The Sony conference was just much better. So I'll start with what impressed me. So right off the bat, well, it's not right off the bat, but the thing that impressed me the most is the price. So the Wii U is $350. The Xbox Saturn is $500. Sony sneaking in there $400. So $50 more than what you pay for the Wii U. So that's a pretty good deal. I'm sure that it won't come with any games. So maybe realistically, it's more like $460 plus plus tax. Better part of $500. Still, it's a really good price. And Microsoft has, as I said, given up. They're not even trying to match that price. So that really impressed me. I also liked Sony's sense of humor about the Xbox One. That ad that they've got, how to share games, the 22-second ad, how to share games on the PlayStation 4 is hilarious. And it just illustrates that Microsoft is done in games. They're going to go back and make spreadsheets again. because that's all they can do. And I should mention what didn't impress me with Nintendo. Right off the bat, Pokemon. I was a teenager when Pokemon came out. I'm not interested in it. I know people who are just a couple years younger than me. They would have been when I was 16, they were 12, right? Young enough to get into it. I'm just on that cusp where it just never appealed to me, and I've never gotten into it for the, what's it been, 16 years it's been around. So, big letdown right off the bat to see that. And then they announced the new Mario game. Now, instead of making... I always think of the side-scrolling games as candy. They're fun, and they're sweet, and they're good in little chunks, right? You eat a handful of candy, you play a couple levels of the 2D, new Super Mario Brothers series. But the Galaxy games, the Mario 64, this type of 3D adventures, they're steak. You want to sit down and eat a big serving of those, right? You want to play that game for hours, really, really get into it. It's just shy of an RPG in the terms of how much you just want to get in there and spend a lot of time in that world. So seeing the new Mario, that's also a letdown. It's closer to candy than it is to steak. And the Mario in a cat suit, it just made me roll my eyes. It's kind of ridiculous. I will say, though, there's a difference between being childlike and childish, and Nintendo's always walked that line, but they've crossed it now. It's gotten to the point where it's childish. Nintendo was like Disney. There's a sense of wonder to it, right? And now it's getting too silly, too cartoony. So there was that. Mario Kart Wii U looks awesome. It's not out for a year. They didn't show any of the new Zelda. They showed Wind Waker. That's fine. I really, really thought they were going to show off the new Zelda, though. We've been waiting for that for a long time. So really kind of a disappointment there. Smash Brothers is, I'm sure, going to be great. Again, that's like a year out. So it's just a bunch of letdowns. The one part I really did like, since I mentioned what I didn't like, Bayonetta 2. Because I think it's a big middle finger up there to all the trolls who say, oh, Nintendo doesn't have any adult games. Bayonetta 2. Granted, obviously when you think of Nintendo, you think of family-friendly games, but they're a big town, right? They have lots of stuff going on. Unlike these guys who have Farmville. So there's that. Now, Sony wasn't perfect either. Assassin's Creed 4, now it was no Battlefield, at least they could get it up and running, right? But Assassin's Creed 4 stopped a lot. I thought there was something wrong with my stream until I realized, no, it's the game. The PlayStation can't run that game. PlayStation 4 can't run that game. I'm sure that it's a beta. It's probably pre-beta. It'll be better by the time it comes out this fall. I'm not worried that it's not going to run. It's just kind of, it's half-baked at this point. But, I mean, you can respect that it's a beta. And it's a live show. So, and that was the other thing, too. The Nintendo's was canned. You could see the cuts. Sony went out there at the risk of having things fall apart. So, good on them. So there was that. But here's the problem with, when I was looking at Assassin's Creed 4 and looking at Watch Dogs, same reaction as when I watched the original Microsoft unveil and they showed Call of Duty Ghosts. It's a great game, but that's not an exclusive. So I was watching, I was glued to my seat watching the Assassin's Creed 4 and the Watch Dogs. Those are both coming to Wii U. What you've done is convinced me that I need to go buy those games for Wii U, especially since the Nintendo conference didn't show a whole lot coming out this year. So here's the problem that really all three companies have right now. You need a killer app. And what I mean by that, what that means is piece of software so good that you'll justify the cost of a new console just to get it. And I don't think any of them have it yet. I can't think of what that would be for any of these companies. Because the first game you get for a system doesn't cost $60. It costs $600, right? So, I mean, if you get the Xbox One and a game and a controller, add on there your taxes, you're well over $600 for that initial game that you buy. $100 less, give or take, for the PS4, and a little less for the Wii U, and especially because the Wii U comes with pack-ins, right? I know that. I think they still have the deal of $380 gets you the Wii U, Zombie U, and a downloadable version of Nintendo Land. So, but either way, that first game is not costing you $60. It's costing you hundreds of bucks. And when the best games you've got are not exclusive, that doesn't convince me, probably very few other people, that they need to drop, you know, $500-600, whatever it be, to play that game. Yeah, so those are really my thoughts. Microsoft exploded, and they died right there on the stage. Nintendo did good. And I want to read you actually what IGN says about Nintendo, because they're dead on this. Two producers of Super Mario 3D World came out in little costumes. I hope you're ready for a presentation by two men over 40 dressed as cats, peppering their speech with cat puns that their interpreters bravely struggled to translate. Platinum Games' Hideki Kaime stood with his arms folded and a slight smile during Bayonetta 2's distinctively un-Nintendo trailer. Later, people hidden within life-size Mario pipes threw plush toy prizes at the audience. It was exactly as dorky as it sounds, but also disarmingly sweet. Nintendo is enduringly earnest about fun. Its developers come out and talk excitedly about games in which you jump around bright, cheerful worlds collecting coins or bananas, or guide tiny plant people around a garden, or race flying cars. They don't say meaningless things like entertainment ecosystem and true next-generation engine. They come across as people who make things, rather than corporate robots removed from the charging station to present for 2 minutes on stage. I think that sums it up right there. Nintendo is a gaming company, right? Microsoft is not. They are a spreadsheet company. Sony is not. Make an awesome Blu-ray player. The camera I'm using right now is Sony. They are not a gaming company. They are a company that also makes games. And they don't, as far as I know, they don't make a profit off their games. I think they lose money. Nintendo is the only one who's figured out a way to actually make money off games. And they are all in it, right? Nintendo does nothing but games. Microsoft and Sony, there are other things, right? If you want a good spreadsheet, you go to Microsoft. You want a kick-ass Blu-ray player, you're going to go to Sony. You want games, you got to go to Nintendo. I think that just sums it up. Even though I have to say that Sony, won this convention, it was definitely it's definitely Nintendo that knows how to make games, but they're quirky, right? Well, are they quirky or are they out of touch? And that's sort of the problem. But as long as they can keep the really good games, their exclusives, and also Batman and Watch Dogs and Assassin's Creed, there really isn't a reason for me to plop down money for the PS4. Now there may one day be a reason, especially given it's not that expensive, but I'm not convinced yet. But I want to know what you think. Leave a comment, leave a video response. Even if it's to tell me I'm stupid, I got no problem. I hear that all the time anyway. So go ahead and rip me a new one. And if there's anybody out there, I know that like 10% of people think the Xbox conference was good. Tell me why. What am I missing out on? What am I not seeing? Or do you not care that Microsoft has come out and said, we don't have any games. We're going to start remaking Super Nintendo games. I'd love to know what I'm missing, because it's pretty clear to see why the Sony conference was good. Nintendo is Nintendo. They're doing what they do. Mario Kart and a new Mario Adventure and all that stuff. You know, you can't help but like them. They are, if you're over a certain age, they are your childhood, right? Your childhood was spent with the Game Boys and Nintendo and Super Nintendo and all that stuff. If you're a little older, maybe it was N64, but or a little younger, I should say, maybe it was N64. But you know, all the same, Nintendo is our childhood, and they continue to deliver again and again. But if you really think that Xbox nailed it and Microsoft nailed it, tell me why, because I would love to know what it is that people see in them. You know, I'm happy to be wrong, and you know, Sony and Nintendo fans, go ahead and leave a comment too, leave a video response, let me know what you thought. Thanks for your time.